Got this text here for the title up at the top for entitled. Got the categories stuff working. As of right now, I don't think this is pulling. I'm not seeing any errors up in here, but oh, there we go. So that is working now. I probably just took a second for it to load up. So I'm probably going to need to do something for that as well. I did. I'm actually playing around with the UI right now. Um, I was manipulating this here. I didn't actually send that to the backend. So I mean, not I didn't actually send that to the source code. So this is what I was planning to do. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I already started up the server in the front end because, as I anticipated, the ng serve command took a little bit of time to run. So I was able to wait patiently for that to happen because now, I started everything a little early. So I did modify this grid our editor here, so that way it takes up the full page. I can make it a little bit bigger if I wanted to, but I don't really think that's necessary. It's nice having everything here on one page. I can't really think of any other changes I want to do right at this very moment, so I'm not going to do any additional changes. But we do have to do some cleanup. For instance, I gotta add some validation to some of these fields, and I want to add that overlay for that I was talking about the other day. So right now we're gonna. This is where I left off. I believe that there was supposed to be some kind of overlay popping up there. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what that was. Oh, okay. So yeah, this is fine. This is the error I was expecting, but I thought I had it set up the other day to do some kind of overlay. That's okay. We can go down to the source code and get to working on that. Let me just close out some of these other tabs that I was using before. I don't even know what that is. I think I already have. Okay, so actually this is where I am. So I actually found an article on Media. Well, I'm sorry, IT Next. I found an article here that shows me exactly how to do this. And the reason why I had to use an article is because I went into Angular's documentation, and actually this is it. So this is the documentation, right? And weird thing is, I didn't find it until I went into the that article because I was here before, but I think I landed on the API page and got caught up here. As opposed to looking to the overview where they show you how to use this thing. So that's that. So this is probably some of the stuff that I might need. But I'm going to follow the article. Reason being is it's customized for my specific use case. So I want to go ahead and do that. And also, I want something that's tried and true. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll modify it to meet what I need. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I forgot to launch VS Code. So let's go ahead and launch VS Code. Let me get comfortable here. I got this as low as I can. So here we are in our post component, right? This is what we want, and I'm actually gonna do some manipulations here as well. Reason being is I want this template. So once I have this I have this going in two places. I think this is the real one here. Yeah, so once I have this form, I want this page to populate just as it is, but I want it to be more dynamic. Um, for instance, we know that the project and the post have some stuff in similar. So for instance, we know that the title is similar, category is similar. Um, the does this have? I think that even a description is even there. So there's so much stuff in common that we want to have available, and so I want to make sure that this is something that's reusable. So that's where we're going to be working on in a second. I don't know if we get to that today though. So I'm actually going to take this article and move it over to another screen so that way I can read it and then break it down over to you guys as we go through this. So let's go up into um, VS Code, and I'm just gonna hit and make all of these things smaller. And well, actually, I can do this fast way like that. Um, And then now we're going to go down to the source, go down to the app, and I'm going to create another folder. And what I'm going to call this folder is, I'm just going to call it overlay, because it is a overlay. I mean, I can call it probably this, I'll call it common. And the reason I'm going to call it common is because this is stuff that can be used anywhere. And when I say used anywhere, I mean more so than all the other stuff. This is stuff that I can just put in places. I don't really have to do any additional setup. These are just going to be components that I may need to do some things, and you'll see that in a second, because we're going to create a loader component to do that spinning thing I was telling you guys about. And now that I'm thinking about this, this was actually the extra stuff I was trying to add onto it, so I'm just going to pull that out. And we are going to keep this subscription here, so I'll leave that. And so I don't want to do anything additional right now. I'm going to pull this out as well, and you guys will see we're going to actually call something else later that's going to do all that stuff for us. And I believe I have another method in here. Oh yeah, it's just on save. Cool. So I don't have to change anything else in here, so I'm just going to save this, because we're not using that stuff anymore. And then let me just do a control F and do is loading. There we go. So I can actually pull this whole thing out, because that's going to go somewhere else now. And I believe I can pull this out as well. And actually, I don't even think I need the div, but I'm going to leave the div for now, in case I want to do something with the background. Who knows, right? So save that, and let's see. Let's go and get started, right? So we're going to go and we're going to create, we're back into that, where is it, this common component. And the only thing I want to do here is I want to pop up a terminal, and I want to use the WSL because that's just easier. WSL bash, as I showed you guys before, I prefer to use those terminals. If it would show me. Oh, I forgot, I gotta close these two out first, get rid of the old ones, and then start the new one. So here we go. So now we have the new one, and then we're gonna, in here we're gonna say, first we gotta change our directory into, actually, yes, change our directory into the app. I have a caps lock on. So from here we can go and say npx ng, wait, I'm sorry, yeah, ng generate, because I'm lazy, component, and we're going to call this common. I spelled component wrong. Component. I think it's spelled correctly now. And this is just something that Angular comes pre-shipped with. It literally just generates a component for you, and what it does is it automatically puts that component decorator and some references to HTML, CSS stuff that we like. And there's also some other configuration options that we have that I'll show you guys in a second. What is it? Angular. I'll just type in Angular CLI. That should pop up. Angular CLI commands. So in the Angular CLI commands, there's a few things that I actually want to do, and the reason why I want to do, what is it? No, here it is here. I want to add in some stuff that says I don't want to create a HTML or a CSS file for this, because everything is going to be done inline. So when I do this, I have to go down here, click on the ng generate, and then I want to look at the options. And on the options, we have some things here. Is this it? Or nope, I gotta go down to component. Here we go. So here we can go and say flat, I believe. No, I'm sorry. Dash dash inline style true, and then inline template true. So this is where we're going to do some styling, and and when we do this, it's not going to create the CSS, or, well, in this case the SCSS, or the HTML files. So that is all we need to do here, and let's go ahead and get started. So we do dash dash inline style, and I think it's camel case. Oops. Yeah, inline style, inline template, and then you're gonna say equals true, and then we do dash dash inline template equals true, and then we'll run that. Just give it a second. Oh, I don't have this linked into a specific module at the moment. I think it has to be, actually this is going to be an entry component, so let me go ahead and see if I can do that as well. So let me go down into the actually, yeah, I think I need to do dash dash entry. I think did they remove that? I thought I saw a line through it. Oh, they did remove this. Since with Ivy, entry components is no longer necessary when true, the new component. Okay, so we don't even have to worry about that. So what I'll do is I'll just do dash dash module, and we'll put in the app module. Dash module equals app. I think it's app. So I think if I put app, it should pick up on it. There we go. So if we look over here, you see it's green, so we went to the right folder and create all the stuff, and you see we don't have that HTML, the SCSS file created because we did that automatically. And then if we go down into app module, we should see that this thing has been imported somewhere. Oh, here it is, here, common component, right? So that's all we want. And now let's go over here, and what I want to do is I'm actually just going to copy and paste the code that I received from a stranger, pretty much. I'm actually going to remove some stuff from it, but this is easier to use what they are giving me. And this is actually me testing it out too for the first time, so I have no idea what's going to happen. So I accidentally pulled in their tick marks as well, which I don't need. So I also have to add in the mat card module here. I really feel like I should have its own module in here. So this would be like all the common stuff, and I see what the issue was there. So I will change if I can find it. I'll change this stuff later, but what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna add in the app module because we are gonna need this stuff. So we are gonna import the mat caps lock mat card module. There we go. And I need to put a comma behind it. That's why everything's turning red. Oh, and import it automatically. Cool. So we import that mat card module. Go back over to our common component. I don't have to worry about any styling as of right now. And we got app dash common, which is cool. And down over here in the constructor, we are going to be using something called overlay. And if I can control Z properly, there we go. So we can do private, and this is how you pretty much link to any service. You have to use this or some kind of injectable thing. You have to inject it into the constructor like this. And this is the overlay that comes from Angular. Well, I think it's more like a native JavaScript stuff, but Angular has done some stuff to it that makes it useful for us. So this is what Angular has set up for it. This is a package that it uses from the Angular CDK. And this, I mean, if you want to dig deeper into it, this is where you can start. And it's just pretty much exactly as it is, you know, overlaying stuff over top of stuff that already exists. And I'm gonna leave this be because you know, it's nice to have a button for that. We're gonna leave it as the primary color, so we'll have that purple that we'll see, and it's gonna be a button here. We'll probably end up triggering it somewhere else, but I'm just using this for reference, and then we'll have our own thing later to actually make this work, because I probably won't even need any of this code in here, but we'll see. So now that that's in there, I have to actually set up the extra code. So I'm just gonna go into show overlay, and I don't think it takes anything. I'm gonna type this one out because I like to write functions out, just because I want to kind of commit it to memory. So I'm gonna say overlay reference, and I think they describe the overlay reference in here, and I think it's just more so about the container that that thing is in. So I'm just, yep. So they don't actually, the overlay reference is a portal outlet. Yeah, okay, so I already closed out the tab, but pretty much it's just like, hey, it's available space in here. So this is the description they give. It's not really that much in depth. It's not really in depth at all, really. The portals package provides a flexible system for rendering dynamic content into an application. And in this particular case, our spinner stuff is going to be dynamic. It's a piece of UI that can be dynamically rendered to an open slot on the page. So that's pretty much it, right? You know, that's the best description I got. So I can't explain it to you if I can't even explain it to myself, right? So we're just do this dot overlay dot create, and we're gonna pass in an object which I believe is the overlay config, and this stuff sets up a lot of different things like the height, the width, apparently you know the position strategy, and I'm actually position strategy is more like, okay, literally how is this thing showed on the page, right? And we can grab a bunch of stuff from the overlay in itself. So this is this is where we're getting all this stuff. To create the overlay, we're using this overlay. In this case, I want to say it's I'm just gonna call it a class, an interface class. Okay, it's a class that gives us functionality. So we're creating it literally right here. This is what this does. And then the position strategy, we want this thing to be centered in a global scope, right? And this is like for your whole page, I'm assuming. And then we want this to be centered. If I can type, okay, centered horizontally, and we want to center this vertically. So it's literally right smack dab in the middle of your page. So that's what this is doing here. And then I think my TS lane wants me to do that. And they're going to say has backdrop. If, oh wait, I needed a comma, not a that thing. Has backdrop. And then I don't even know what a backdrop is. We're just going to say true. And I'm assuming it's probably some kind of background. Like, you know, if you wanted grayed out background or something like that, that's what that is. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to say overlay ref dot attach. So now we're attaching the overlay that we just created right here to the portal that pretty much is the empty space on the screen. So in the new component portal, and then here is a component portal is a portal that instantiates some component upon attachment. So it creates an instance of the load component. In this case, I think I call it common component. I need to rename this, and I'm going to just call it overlay. We can call it loading because that's literally what it does. And actually, I'm going to do an F2 on this. And the reason why I got to do F2 is because we got to change anything that's using it, so it's easier to do it this way. Let's see, loading. I'll call it loading overlay because I like to be specific. Loading overlay or load overlay, right? Boom, component, and then I can just rename these. Load probably is a terrible word for that, and it probably is not gonna let me change any of this because I have it active. So I'm gonna leave that alone, and then I'm just gonna use load overlay component. Boom, and that's all it took for this thing to be set up. But it takes a little bit more work for it to actually run. And I just did that just because it was being funky. It's supposed to give me an error, but it didn't come back yet. So I figured I'd just keep going with this. So give that a chance to save. And the reason I now want to check the UI, see if anything broke. I don't even think this stuff. Oh, it is refreshing. Okay, cool. Never mind. Yeah. So just wanted to check to see if anything broke without having to go back to the browser. So now we have this thing set up, and as of right now, we don't really have anything launching this. Actually, actually, let me check that out before I say this. Yeah, there's nothing loading this in because I declare it, but I didn't create any references for it or anything like that. And I'm not going to yet because it's not done. Um, I'll show you what it would have done for us. So it would have created this right here, and the stuff that we're seeing in that card is actually all this stuff back here. Like I said, I didn't think I needed that stuff. I just brought it in just because. So now that I'm thinking about it, let me just go ahead and get rid of this. And I might even just say, hey, as soon as I call this and I initialize it, I'm going to call this. So I can just take this show overlay and just do this dot show overlay. Right. So that's probably something more, what's the word I'm looking for? More consistent, because this is say, hey, as soon as this component is created, meaning like all the JavaScript code is loaded in, it's going to call this function. So that's and that's all we wanted to do. So now we got that going, and then the next thing we got to do is actually getting it to display over top of another component. So in order to do this, we have to redefine pretty much the container, the scope of this, right? If you had like water in a container, if you want to get more water, or you want the water to fit a specific shape, you got to change the container. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. So yikes. So pretty much it seems like I have to get another component. So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna create another one. So I actually don't like having to do this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save this, right? And then I'm gonna close it. The reason I'm gonna close it is because I want to change the directory structure here. So let's go here and we're gonna say let's call this load overlay. Hopefully that worked. Seems like it's not liking it. Nope, not liking it. So let's try to change this then. Load dash overlay. Okay, so I can change the files at least. So load dash overlay. Boom. So now I'm going to create another folder, and this one is going to be the I'm going to call it custom. I'll say dynamic, right? That's what it is. Dynamic overlay container. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before to generate that component. And in this particular case, it's going to be common slash dynamic over, actually I gotta do the name of the component, so I'm gonna do dynamic. Let's see if this works. Dynamic overlay container. And that slash is just for the folder structure, because otherwise it would go somewhere else. It would go like right off the app, and it would have its own section there. Forgot to do the same thing. Module is going to be the app module. And let's give it a second. So it created it. Oh, there we go. Cool. So if we drop this down, we've got it. And this is all we needed. So now in here, we've got, in this particular case, instead of component, we need injectable. Injectable. Instead of component here, it's going to be injectable. And we don't need a selector in here, so we're going to pull all this stuff out and just say provided in, and then we go here and say root. I gotta read the description here because the root might change. I don't think my stuff is called root, but we can get past that. So this will enable this will enable to specify a container element in our, okay, so this will allow us to specify a container element, and in this particular case it's going to be a component. So instead of like an element like in the HTML, it's going to be a component that we're using. And but you don't use an overlay container but an overlay. Therefore you have to create a new class extending overlay. Let's name it, okay, so this gets tedious, right? And I want to make sure we're using this, we're in the same place. Okay, yeah, we're still in the same spot. So I didn't finish copying all of the stuff in here yet, so let me go ahead and do that. And we're going to extend something. So we're going to extend, and actually I don't need on init, so I'm going to get rid of that. So we're going to say extends, and we're going to extend the overlay container. And since this technically isn't a component, I'm going to hit F2 and just take the component part out, so that way it updates an app module and I don't have to do it manually. As you see here, it changed. So now back over here, I don't even need a constructor because I don't think it well, it just doesn't need one, right? So here we're gonna go public, and this is gonna be set container element, and we're going to pass in the container element, or we're going to call it the container element, right? And this is going to be an HTML element, boom, and get our curly braces. And this is actually going to, it's not going to return anything, so we're going to be explicit about that, void, and we're going to say this dot underscore, and this dot underscore just means you shouldn't touch this. So it tells anybody else that's going to view this code later, say, hey, don't touch this or you might screw something up. I mean, that's, you know, most things in code, but it's like this is really going to royally screw it up. It's like, you know, this is something that shouldn't be changed. That's really what it's saying. So now this sets our container element, and this will enable, okay, we already did that. So that's what we did here. That's what that method did for us. And oh geez, I'm actually just gonna copy and paste this because there's quite a bit of stuff in here. In order to do the in order to extend the overlay container, we pretty much took in all of the different types of overlays that we could literally use. So I'll just show you guys. So here, therefore you have to create a new class extending overlay, boom, and that's what's happening. Where's this thing? So this is a whole new thing that they created to extend this. It seems like right within where we are. So dynamic overlay container, right? So, and it's like, oh, this is it here. So it's like, hey, you don't use an overlay container but an overlay. So in order to get this thing to work for our overlay, we have to use an actual overlay container, right? So I'm trying to figure out if with this they are using the same thing, or if they're using something new, right? Okay, so they did modify the same component, and I just want to check their app modules to see if they put it in here. So let me just copy this, right? And grab that, and then I want to look in here. This is a lot of code, but we need to inject all these services and feature to fit with the original overlay. I've created a create with default config method, including a default configuration, has backdrop and position strategy are already defined, but it's up to you to enhance this config. So this is where you can do your customizations for specific things like the backdrop and all of that. And that's all we need, no less, no more. Let's try to make it out on a mat table. So pretty much I'm not going to create a table because I don't, you know, I already have stuff that exists. So he just created something so that way he had something that already existed so he can inject this thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, what's this here? Seems like there's something else here. Getting closer to the world. Well, this overlay looks nice, but it still does not disappear. This is important. Okay, so I can skip this step probably because it's probably missing some code. Well, this overlay looks nice, but it still does not disappear. This is important to make it disappear um, once the data is fetched. To do so, just created an overlay loading directive. So seems like I will use this, but I'll need to use something else as well. So let me just go Control A and Control V, and I'm just gonna use it as it. Excuse me. I'm just gonna use this as is. And the reason why they used this thing here with the underscore is, again, is because it's something that you probably shouldn't touch. So I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not gonna listen to the rules here. And here, oh, so we did need to use that dynamic overlay container. So this actually has to stay. And I'm just gonna go and create a new file. I don't want to create a new component, but I mean I do actually. So I'll just go in here, and since I'm pretty lazy, we're just gonna say dynamic overlay this time. And did I need an HTML reference? I can't remember. Yeah, I just need a selector, so I don't need any kind of HTML stuff for this. Actually, wait, it was here. Here. Yeah, I don't need that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy that again. Go back into VS Code. We've already saved this. And then where is it? Overlay container. Oops, comment. Overlay container, and then let's go down in here, and we're gonna create a new file. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Here, I'm just gonna hit that button to send all that stuff in. Cool, and there we go. Dynamic overlay. Let's go over here, and let's paste in all of the new code that we got. And this is pretty much it. So I'm gonna save that, but I want to look it over really quick. So again, this is all the stuff that they used from the original overlay. If you go over here in Angular and you look at overlay, there's a bunch of different types of overlays that you can have. So is this the place, or is it in Portal? I think this is it. So trying to see if I can find all of the different ones. Full screen overlay. So there's I don't think this is actually being used here, but there's, oh wait, if I go to the API, you'll see it. So over in the API, you can see all of the different overlays. So you got the overlay container that we had to use, the overlay keyboard, overlay position, and I don't think we used scroll strategy, but the overlay ref that we had. So this is all stuff that's coming from this CDK that we need to use. So they just took since you're extending it, you gotta include all the old stuff and override it. So that's what this did here. Dynamic overlay container. The renderer, this is stuff that you have to use probably from the overlay class. The constructor, we have to pull in all of these old components here. I mean, yeah, we have to pull in all the old stuff. And we're injecting a document, and in this case I think the document is where you actually put this in place. Don't quote me on that though. And this is more so about pulling in your documents. The way stuff is going to be shown is going to go left to right or right to left. I don't really know about the factory stuff just yet. And here they're saying, hey, for all of this stuff that you got to use, just inherit it from the original. So you're not really overriding it, you're just making sure that implementation is in place in this new dynamic overlay. And then down here, this is where you create your renderer, and this is, I guess, this is how it's going to be displayed, right? And then we're pulling in that overlay container that we created, I guess, yeah. So, and we just changed the type there. And here, this is where you set the container element. In this case, we're setting up our dynamic overlay container that we created. Again, this is more so about this is how the styling, how it's going to be displayed. I don't think we have to touch this. And create with default config. This just makes sure, so this is this kind of same kind of thing. The HTML element in this case is going to allow us to use a component, and in that it's going to say no matter how big, however much space your component takes up, this is also going to match that. And I think what we're missing here is the closing for the actual component itself, and it wants a free line. So that's all we had to do with this. And I believe there was one other thing that he mentioned, which was we need a way to close it, right? So I'm going to skip all of this because this was him just creating something else to have go below it. And now let's figure out how to close this thing, right? Then you will be able to use it like so. Okay, I didn't want that. So let's go and grab this. So this way, let's see. Well, this overlay looks very nice, but it doesn't disappear. This is important to make it disappear once the data is fetched. There's some typos here. To do so, I've created an overlay loading directive. This way, the directive is reusable on every component you want. It requires a parameter and observable boolean to indicate whether the overlay should be attached or detached, meaning respectively the data is fetching or fetched. So I'm just going to grab this and drop that in somewhere as well, right? And since it's a directive, I'm going to leave it up in here in the dynamic overlay, and I'll just say dynamic, well, actually overlay loading, right? There we go. So I'm going to say overlay dash loading dot directive dot ts, and then control V. And again here we're grabbing and we're creating the directive, and this is what has to be input, and this is how it's gonna know that we use this directive, because we're gonna have overlay loading written out just like how we do like class and all that stuff in those HTML tags. This is what it's gonna allow us to do. And when it initializes, it's gonna set the overlay reference to create to be whatever dynamic overlay that we're using, and it's going to use the default configuration, which is fine for now. This is like a toggler, so you're either going to turn it on or you're going to turn it off, and that's what is happening here. And did I loose line? There we go. What's going on here? Can't resolve all parameters for overlay loading directive. Don't know why. Implement, oh, let me see if maybe I have too many opening closing nope, I'll figure it out in a second. So we don't need to do this because we're just trying to get I don't know why Adobe Creative Cloud always loads randomly. It's probably this thing here, seems like. The dynamic overlay that we created is not in node modules, so let me take a look at this. It seems like the imports are just screwed up. Add app, third parties, Angular material, dynamic overlay. This is interesting because we never added this to, material. So I'm gonna just put the reference back to it how we did locally. So our component references are of course different. So let's go ahead and fix this. System.slash, and it's not loader component. I think which one was supposed to be the loader component? I forget. I think it was the first one that we created. So I think it's this one here. Yeah. Load overlay dot component. So let's use this one, and I believe I call it load overlay, oops, load overlay component. And now we can do a dot slash because we need to get out of this folder completely and get that load overlay component. And then so now where we see load overlay component, we need to change this to change the loader component. There we go. And for this one, I think it's just having an issue with getting that dynamic overlay. So I also need to fix this as well, which is going to be // dynamic overlay / dynamic overlay component, which I think that's what it is. We'll find out in a second. So now I can save everything. Sweet save. So I gotta compare this. That's why I didn't save. So I'm gonna just hit the save button again just so I can do a compare. And I'm just gonna take the newer one. User changes. I'm gonna open the file just so I can do it myself. And I forget how you do this, but yeah, I'm actually just gonna hit the X and just don't save it because it's already saved. So now we got the new stuff that we put in there. And seems like there's a bit of a conflict with the files. So let me go down into the app module and just touch these up. I wonder what happens if I just remove these and then import them again. Dynamic overlay container. There we go. So we can import that one. And then can't find dynamic overlay component. So let's check that one. So this is supposed to be it here. So this is just dynamic overlay. So that's why. So it should just be just dynamic overlay. And then let's just go ahead and import that. So now we've got everything working, but now we have to actually put it into the project so we can trigger it. And in order to do this, let me pull this up into this browser. And what they did was, let's see, right up in here, we use that, they created an observable on here. I didn't even notice that. Wait a second. Detach. So I'm assuming there's an observable in here that I missed, and I would do. Oh, it's toggler right there. Fetching data $. I didn't see us create that observable. Let's see if I can find that. Nope, I don't even see it. So I'll just I'll trust it for now because I don't have another choice. And I'm just gonna grab this, and I'm now gonna go over into the post, hoping that this thing works. So we got post, go to HTML, and I want to inject it right here at the top. So I did need this div eventually, and it's probably like, what is this, right? And in order to get this thing to work, I probably have to import it somewhere, which is going to be here. And in order to use this, I need to, actually I think I need to save these things as entry components. Entry components. I don't actually see this saying depreciate. Oh, there it is, there. Angular automatically adds components in the module's bootstrap and root definitions into the entry components. Use this option to add components that are bootstrapped using one of the imperative techniques, such as. Okay, so I don't think I have to worry about that then. Okay. Something's off to me though. Okay. One more thing I'm missing is to put this thing in place, because once it goes in here. Oh, I see. Since they use something different. I think it's because this thing just doesn't exist, right? And but they created it right here. So let me grab this. And actually, no. It's gonna be the observable created from a few things actually. So display overlay true false. Let me grab this, I guess. I feel like I'm gonna need that somewhere else. So I'm gonna put this up in the post TS. and then I'm going to drop this off right here, I guess. And then I'll go down into save, because this is where we're going to use this. And I need to put it on the subscription on the wrong button. And right here, this fetching data, I'm actually going to use this the same, and I'm going to go. I'm going to steal this the whole way as of right now. Then I'll modify it over here in VS Code. I think I need to put it right here. So now we've got a new thing, and as of right now, it's broken, and we don't need any of this. Oh, I see. That's why we didn't need. Okay, so this is actually just gonna be easier than I thought. Display error. That's not what we're looking for. It's all because this thing's just broke. So right now we don't have observable imported, so we gotta import this thing if it lets me. And then why is everything broke now? I'll leave it alone for now. And then the next thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to say equals false as observable, something like that. Observable. Definitely probably did that wrong. Observable Boolean. Is that how I did it? Conversion of the type. Wait. Oh, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how I did the conversions from my login service, I believe. Behavioral subject. Oh, I see. I created the behavioral subject. I don't want to do that. I have to figure this thing out, because right now it's looking for an observable, and I don't have an observable created. Yeah, this seems weird, but how do you even send a boolean as a observable? Yeah, I would just say equals new behavioral subject boolean and I think well, actually I'll just leave it alone right now, right? And then what's gonna happen is we're gonna say because what they do here is they actually manipulate it and send out the result. So in the same breath, I can say that I really just wanted to make it false, but apparently I couldn't just send that. If I tried to put false here, I wouldn't get it. See, it's not letting me. It's not too observable. Let me just do this. Create a boolean observable. Oh, I didn't think of that. User behavior subject. That didn't get any check marks, but this is what could happen there. And that's probably the easiest way, to be honest. So I'm just gonna grab this, and I'm gonna use this one. I'll just say loading, right? Equals new behavioral subject false, and that's what I wanted. So I would just say this is gonna be loading. Loading. And then how did I do this again? Dot as observable. Cool. So it'd be this dot loading dot as observable. This dot loading dot as observable. Cool. Oops. Boom. So now we got it. So when I modify this thing, I need to use it in here. So to say this dot loading dot next, I believe is what happens, and then the values needs to be true. And then when this is done, right? So at some point I need to trigger this to go off, but I don't have a way to do that right now. So I'm just going to, and actually I probably should have done it here. And then just say response. And then once a response is received, we need to do something with it, right? But I'll just leave it alone for right now. I have it turned on, but not a way to turn it off just yet. And I thought I would have had to inject it somewhere in here. Um, let's see what happened. Oh, so let's hit save. And we're not getting anything. So let me check my console. Would have thought something broke by now. Nothing in the terminal, so I'm not getting anything. So I might have to use it the way they created it for the time being, just because I don't understand it. And that just became painfully clear. Oh, I know. Actually, let me just follow along for the time being. And one more thing I want to check is, was this modified anywhere else? For instance, create these observables here, but we didn't. I don't remember creating anything. So up in here in the table, there's nothing in here to change anything dealing with an observable. So okay, it is whatever's going on down here. So just to make it easy, I'll grab the existing code here and just use it as is. And then I'll even keep that display overlay, which I think is still in here. Yeah. So let's Control V, and then just import those things. I think I need to import map. Quick fix. Oh, come on. There we go. Import map. Yep. And then we need to import interval again, I believe as well. Not again, but as well. Interval from RxJS. Cool. Yes. Boom. I think I need the opening. Where's there? And then, geez. Alright, so what am I missing now? Oh, I see. So this was actually for the component decorator, so I don't need this at all, which makes sense. So that's all that's happening here. They want me to clean up this space. There we go. So now let me try to load this thing in, and I think it just runs automatically. So if this thing doesn't work, then I'm not exactly sure what I did wrong, because I didn't write it, and I just copied and pasted a bunch of stuff. One thing I'm thinking is, so when this article is actually a little outdated as well. It's kind of why sometimes when I'm searching, I try to use things that are recent. And this is, well, not that far outdated, but seems like it might still be outdated at the least. And you may have noticed, so in here we were supposed to add this to the app modules, but I don't see where that was done. Don't forget to add as an entry component, since it's not referenced in a template. So I'll try it in the entry component, just to make sure. Even though it is depreciated. Oh, this thing here. So this part is still not picking up on the actual overlay loading thing. So let me just save it and see if we have any errors pop up, because this is the part that we needed in order for everything to work. I didn't even realize it. So just force it to kick off. Yeah, so we're getting that error now in the HTML component, in the HTML saying that what property, well, we do have that property. Okay, so a lot of things are broken. Oh, this thing isn't a service, so let me go ahead and check that out. So yeah, we got quite a few errors, so I'm gonna just move the errors over to another screen so we can diagnose these one by one. First one is, let's work with this fetching data stuff. So it's saying fetch data doesn't exist, which it does, So I need to figure out why that's not showing up. So let me get rid of this here. Fetching data definitely exists. So let's save that. Okay, cool. So we're past the first stream of errors, I think. Can't buy. Okay, so that's cool. So now we got to get this service picked up. So as of right now, it can't find the overlay container service. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this guy's files, and I'm just going to do Control F overlay dot. Well, I'm just going to do dot service, right? Oh, here it is here. Dynamic overlay container dot service dot ts. So this is the one here. So what I'm going to do is in the overlay container, dynamic overlay container, instead of doing dot component, I'm just going to do dot service. And that's where I messed up. So rename this. Dot service dot ts. Okay, error messages are a little cleaner. And the only other thing I think is the common, oh, it was looking for common component for some reason, and this was back in the app module. So let me go over to the app module and figure out what's going on in here. So yeah, this is it here. Load overlay is failing. I could have sworn I fixed it, but let's go and just do dot slash, I believe, nope, dot slash common slash load overlay component is what I believe what it's supposed to be. Okay, cool. Now we've got this thing running with no errors, I think. Oh, nope. Dynamic overlay dot container dot service. That should be a dot ts. I don't think I have to pull this in actually. Slash. There we go. Still breaking. Cannot find module. So it's looking for a module for this thing. I don't have a module for this thing. So let me try entry component, because it says it says we don't have to do that, but I think we do. Dynamic, which one was it? I think it was the dynamic overlay service. Nope. Very first one, which is the load component. Yeah, so let's go load component. So let's go with the load. Load overlay. Okay. Doesn't want to be copied, so do it this way. Save it. Check the output. So now that dynamic overlay container service is still giving me some problems, saying that it can't find it. I wonder what happens if I do the .ts on this thing. And actually, I'm just gonna put I'm gonna leave this here. I'm not gonna go as deep, because we go common and we go into dynamic overlay container, and then right in the container is where we go to the dynamic overlay service.ts, and then the name is still dynamic overlay. Oh, don't tap that and have to click up here. So if I do slash dynamic overlay dot service dot ts, right? Well, that we shouldn't. Yeah, we shouldn't be able to have to go any further than this. So I think there's one other file I didn't save. So I think it's just not getting the name. So, and that's probably because the structure. So I'm gonna shut down the so when I changed the names, everything was already built. So now that I changed the name, when it's trying to refresh, it's like, hey, I'm not seeing this file that you changed. So probably gonna have to give this a second to load up. As you guys know, it takes a while for this to work. But once it kicks off, I believe everything should be in order. And then once we've got this running, we can just make the changes that we need to make in order to get the loading and stuff going. And the reason why I'm so adamant about having this is because in the future, as I try to start expanding things and doing more stuff, I'm going to need something that can be a little bit more dynamic in showing stuff to the users. Um, Here, okay, we're getting a slightly different error. It's saying something. Oh wait, okay.
And just make the changes
It's just that
we
the
need to make.
Angular isn't being built yet, and then
going.
the connection is
And
labyrinth.
the reason why
about
I'm
that.
so adamant
So nothing to worry about there. So just being patient, and there we go. Still a problem with this thing. Yeah, here we go here. So I'm not sure what's going on with this. Oh, so this actually, there might actually be a service for this. But no, we just created that service. So how did he get that going again? Let's go and look. So I think we gotta go pretty far down. To dot service. I wonder if we didn't have to put this thing in here at all. So let me try that. Right? Let me wait. Nope, wrong page. Oh, I'm in the app module. So in here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out that dynamic overlay container. And I just want to verify that. So right here, this will yeah. So dynamic overlay. This is a lot of code. Let's just say. Yeah, so I don't think they added any of this other stuff to the app module. I think they just used the first part and then just extended everything else. So those may be references, which is why they were imported directly. So let's try this and see if we have any issues. So right now everything is recompiling, rebuilding. So it's gonna take some time. Okay, cool. So now we got it. Oh, nope. Can't bind to overlay loading since it isn't a property of div. Excuse me. So now we just got to figure out how to get this thing on here, and I think I figured it out. So when we go and look here, we gotta go a little lower. So they created this overlay loading directive, and then down here implemented on the component that we're rendering. And in order to do that, we have to do some funky stuff actually, because the overlay loading stuff was defined where in the same, okay, it's defined in the same component, but it's being applied to something else. So what I'm gonna have to do is put this on something that we know that we have more control over. So I can't put it on div, but I might be able to put it on something else. I'm trying to think. I'll do this. I'll do ng container. Ng container is similar to div, but a little different. So then add common module. Okay, so now we're getting something a little different. So if overlay loading is an Angular directive, then add common module to the ng imports of this component to allow any property. Okay, so cool. So now we're getting something a little different that might work. ng container, save, and let's see, right? And I'm just gonna keep looking here in the terminal. We didn't have a problem initially. Okay, now we're seeing the same thing. So now we got to get this thing to the point where we're not having any issues. I think before we didn't have any issues because this directive was being used. So somehow I have to notify my code that we're using this directive that we created. And where's that here? Yeah. So overlay loading is what we're using. But somehow we're not connected to it. No, nothing knows about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put this inside of the inside the admin module. So let me go over here and we're going to just import the overlay loading. No. What is it? Overlay loading directive. There we go. Overlay loading directive. So now we have to make our code aware of it. I don't think they got the job done though. So now we're back to square one, it seems. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just try to stop it and just rerun it, see if that fixes any of it. At this point, like I said, I'm not sure because again, the person that whose code I'm incorporating is using a slightly different use case than I have. My first thought process was to just use the default stuff, but since I want to add this thing inside of a component, it's a little bit easier, even though it's tedious now, to just use somebody else's, use something that already works and then modify it as needed. So again, saying, and this time it's in the dynamic overlay .component.ts. So dynamic overlay .component.ts. So let's see what's going on here. So this is the dynamic overlay container. Oh, I think this root might be a problem. So let's go over to the dynamic component. Here, that does appear to be the problem. So let's go. Oops. Dot slash. Oh, yep. So dot slash dynamic overlay container slash dynamic overlay service. That appears to be in good standing, and I just deleted some stuff from the header. So, well, the imports, there's some unused imports. I'm not going to save it again. So now let's see if this thing will work. Alright, I'm going to wait a few more seconds just to see if anything drops in while we're waiting. Yep. So overlay directive is missing an ng model annotation. So it appears in the imports of admin module but could not be resolved to an ng module class. So now we're getting a little closer. And I think at this point it was because I tried to import it, and I guess I should have just said it was declared here. Otherwise, actually I need to put this on, you'll see in a second. Instead of doing this, I need to declare it because importing means like you're importing a module. You only import modules. So so that's one thing we gotta be careful of. And then so let's go into the admin module so that way we can use this in other places. And let's go ahead and drop this directive in here. And we'll import it. Jeez. Import. And now save it. Let's save all three of these. We're still recompiling. Cool. Now, okay, we're kicked out. Seems like our code is a little screwed up, as you see. But I'm going to ignore it, and I'm going to use our will at gmail.com. Testing 1 2 3. Our login button. Okay, so some of our stuff is screwed up because of this, really. So we've got something working, but I don't know what happened. Um, token should be still good, I think. So let's go slash admin slash post and see if we can get there. Now we're getting kicked out. So it seems like the token expired. Let me go testing. Nope, not testing. It's will at gmail.com and testing 1 2 3. What's happening is that my form module is being not my form module, my forms are being overwritten somehow. Seems like I got this thing in the right spot though. Once I take this out, it seems like it'll go back to normal. Just a validation at this point. Nope, something's throwing my forms off. I don't remember changing anything else there. So all this means is that my token expired, and yeah, I don't have any anything to go off here. Oh, here we go. We got something. Error occurs in template URL. Yep. So same thing. So if I put this back on the ng module, at least yeah, let's put it back here because we at least now know that this works. And overlay loading is an Angular directive, then add common module to the ng module imports of this component. So this component doesn't have a module, and it seemed like we didn't need one. So let me go back up and check out this thing. So when we created the directive, to do so, created a directive, observable, but I don't see it added anywhere in the code, right? Okay. So a real use case, this overlay loading directive is very useful to make any component data loadable, meaning you can provide it as an observable indicating whether data is fetched or not. When using a store, it's very useful when you want to fetch data from a remote web API. You'll have two modules state, one for entity. I'm not using a store though. So this is store, but I'm not worried about this one. Customization, and then apply provide for configuration to nope. Not using that. Forcing these observable. Therefore, let's inject. Not worry about that either. We must update the app component to provide the config for the directive. Oh, that's it there. So, nope, that's not it. That's if they modified it. Huh, seems like I missed something. Because I can't see the app modules. Let me see if I can view the okay. Oh no, I wanted to view this project on GitHub. If I can view it on GitHub, it would be so much easier. So let's see if I can find a link to the GitHub. A loader for your components. Great stuff. I was looking here. Geez, it would have been so much convenient if we had this linked. Let's see if we can dig this thing up. It says it's hosted by GitHub. So, oh, here we go. I think. And I need to log out of here. And then try that again. Oh, wait, what the? Oh, so it just took me to my GitHub. So, jeez. Okay, so brains spinning. I see this app module. They also imported the overlay module, which I didn't. Let's see if this helps. Try to do a speed read, but see how that played out for me. So now it should connect the dots for some of these things. So let's see if we got any errors. Slight errors, but slightly different. So now I'm actually going to throw this back into the admin module, and we're just going to say this time we're going to import the overlay, not the overlay, but the you guys know what I'm talking about, the directive, right? I'm going to start typing directive. Hopefully it gets the one that we created, overlay loading directive. Yep, that's the one that we created. Alright, so now we're getting a little closer, it seems. Here's an import of ng module cannot resolve to an ng module class. So let's go over to this directive. Seems like it at least picked that up, but it missed something else. I have no idea. So maybe I need to put the overlay module on this thing. Imports overlay module. Let's try to get this thing to pull it in. Because I don't even have this problem with the first directive that I created. So ng container. Alright, so I'm thinking I'm gonna scrap this. I know we're pretty deep, but I'm not sure what I missed, and I don't feel like copying anybody else's project. There's no GitHub repo for it, so I'm gonna scrap it. Actually, I'm gonna grab all of these. I'm gonna just get rid of them. Yep. Waste of an hour. So it should be they should be gone now, I think. Heck? Oh shit. I wanna get rid of that. Get it out of there. And it seems like I gotta do these one by one. So what I'll do is I'll just follow the docs and try to get this thing going. And then if I need to expand it, and then I guess I have a reference, right? But just following that thing, it's never fun. And it feels like, well, with all the typos, I should have knew something was wrong. So it doesn't even seem like these things are doing anything. So I'm just going to delete this whole folder. Now I know to do something. Yeah. Delete that. And more administrative privileges. Yep. You are allowed to delete this thing. What the hell? Alright, it seems like I'm having a problem there. So, let me just go back up into the HTML here and at least get that out of there. Leave the div. I could have sworn I deleted this thing. Delete. So it's not. Oh, I think I got it. Refresh. Alright, it still wants to keep it there, that's fine. I'll remove them later. Um, so what we're gonna have to do is just follow Angular's documentation, which is a little vague, but it'll get the job done. And what I wanted to do was use the, where's this? Overlay, nope. Overlay position, no, let's just do overlay. So this is a service apparently. So first let me get out of the API because that's how I got stuck last time. So what I gotta do is the CDK overlay depends on a small set of structural styles to work correctly. If you're using Angular material, these styles have been included together with the theme. Otherwise, if you use the CDK its own, you'll have to include the styles yourself. You can do so. So we already have the styles. So the only thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our we're gonna go into our post. We're gonna go to the TS file, and I'm gonna undo these changes. Oh, I didn't need to take that out. So now we've got this out, right? So what's gonna happen is we're gonna do this dot create. Oh, I didn't pull in the overlay yet. So in the constructor here, I'm gonna do private. Oh shit. I think I know why it didn't work now. If I go back and look at this, I'm probably gonna see somewhere in a constructor that stuff was imported. Yep, that's it right there. God damn it. And I just deleted all that stuff. Luckily for us, I didn't delete it completely. I knew I missed something. I knew it. I just couldn't put my finger on it. So let's see if I can find that common folder. Deleted this so many times, it might have got deleted for real. Oh yeah, but it did say delete forever. Let's see if we can do it by date modified. Yeah, that stuff's gone. So, so much for that, right? Oh wait, somehow it's still alive here, which isn't making any sense to me. But it's not showing here. So we got two options. We can try to redo these. Actually, I want to see what happens if I just click on this and hit a plus. Okay, yeah, it's gone. So, geez, all that work just gone. There's no way to undo that. So that's fine. I'll just have to redo it. This time you guys know what's going on. So actually it kind of works in my favor. So now I can do load overlay and then that's supposed to be a folder. New folder, load dash overlay. And then in here, I'm actually going to do this pretty quick now. This is just going to be dynamic dash overlay dot service dot ts, and then we had the, let me just get all the file names. So let's go new file loader dot component dot ts. So let me copy this, paste this one while I'm right here. Boom, boom, save. And now I'm going to move quite a lot faster since I already lost so much time. So we got that. This is the app module. Cool, we can skip that part for now. App component .ts, we can skip that. We already have a component to put this thing in. Actually, what we could really do is we could probably just test this out first. So, oh, so I put this in the wrong place as well. So this show overlay should have been, actually, yeah, should have been somewhere else, right? So if I go back over to the post component.ts and I put this show overlay in here, Control V, and I just do this. Oop, let me do this dot show overlay. That's all I'm going to put in there for now, so we can see that it worked. As opposed to like last time, we went straight into it and then it didn't work, and then we had no idea how to follow through. So trying to avoid that this time. And then in this case, we need to import the loader component, which we now have, and then we also need to import this. Cool. And that seems to be working. And then let me check out. Did I have to put that in any CSS anywhere? Oh, there's a button for it. What I'm going to do is, instead of having a button for it, I'm just going to call that in the ng on init. So I'm just going to this dot show overlay, and I'm just going to save it for right now. I think this loader component needs to be never called in the card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this. I'm going to make it blank. And then once a blank file there, and then I think I have to go into the app module and at least put a reference to it for the component. So I can take off this mat cart module, and then I can go ahead and put in the load component and loader component. There we go. Import it. There we go. And that's all we needed there. So save that, and we should have something. Can't resolve all parameters. Okay, so still can't resolve here. But it doesn't tell me what it can't resolve. Is loading, doesn't need to be in here. Can't resolve. Alright, that's very useful. So I think it's just one of these methods has extra open and closing tags. So the only way I can fix this is by closing out some of these. Oh, I know. I never put. Oh, I did put overlay in there, but I never put the overlay object. There we go. Oh, come on. Caps lock is on. Overlay. There we go. And it should have been imported when I did that. So now when I save, it should be able to pick out stuff. And then what is this here? Oh yeah, so these don't exist right now. And then I don't know where I'm gonna have to define that load overlay thing. I probably could. I'm just gonna put it in declarations. And see how everything likes that. So I'm not seeing any errors. At least not where I thought I would see errors. Right now so our terminal completely broke. So still needs an ng module annotation. So because of that, I'm gonna stick that down into the imports. That's what the problem was. Didn't even put it in imports. Enter. There we go. So everything compiled. Something screwed up in here now, and I don't know where I screwed up. Let me go over to the admin module and make sure I didn't import anything in here that could screw stuff up. Seems to be the case though. Because oh, I see. Did I remove the common module? Nope. So in trying to pull in some other stuff, we didn't, excuse me, screwed up what I was trying to, not something else, completely. Now my form is completely in disarray. And then what's this here? How did this stuff survive? Whoa, wait, I thought I deleted this stuff. I'm oh so confused now. Okay, so these things shouldn't be existing right now, but they do. Thought I deleted them, but I didn't. It's a weird day. Very weird day. Dynamic overlay container. Let me just delete that because this is gonna give me a headache. The whole folder needs to go into the recycle bin. Failed to delete using recycle bin. So only thing I can do now is just try to move this folder, and in order for this to work, gotta close it out. Loader component. I think that's all the stuff for it. I'm just gonna delete it. There's too many pieces going on here. Now if it doesn't delete now, I'm gonna try to use it. Alright, I guess I'll try to use it. What did they do? They put that thing in there, and they actually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close out VS Code, reopen it, and make sure I don't have cache settings in there. I should have did that earlier. Alright, boom. So the common folder is definitely here to stay. So what that means is I'm just gonna get rid of this stuff. If it lets me at least delete one folder, right? So for some reason my computer does not give me any respect. I can't do anything. So with that being said, I mean at least it saved me some time, because now I get to try this again without having to try to re-import everything from scratch. So and then somehow open the wrong folder. So let's go to, wait, I don't know, man. Try to open this. Resource busy or block. I'm going to cancel that. And but for some reason the loader component doesn't have anything in it. Alright, man, my computer's just on drugs today. That's the only thing I can think of. My computer is literally on drugs. Yeah, something's not going on. Something's not working here. Can't figure out exactly what's not working. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the browser. Wrong browser. Back to the browser. Back here, and just go piece by piece and grab in this loader component, which is what I believe to have had, and then I control V. Oh, I did have everything I needed there. That's interesting. Loader component.ts didn't have anything. And then put that in the entry components. So in this case, I'm gonna put it. I'll put it there. engine components, and I'll do loader component, right? And it is in the declarations as well, and that's about it. Alright, so now what I gotta do is go and create that overlay. It's kind of weird though, because right here we didn't set anything except for, you know, oh, I see. So maybe I do need this stuff in there. So I'm gonna do this right from here. Boom. And it's just don't fit because I don't have the mat card module in there as before. And I lost my app module. Seriously though, where is it? Oh, here it is. So it's like reliving the past. So my apologies. It's just you know stuff doesn't come easy. And we've got our setup going, and then we're gonna go down into our post.ts. Still has the show overlay method going, and I just did it up here in the constructing the ng on init to just set it off immediately, and imported the overlay. So let's give this a whirl. Oh, wrong button. Save all. Retry all. And I think here is, oh, I didn't import the oh, what the hell? Wow, I don't know what just happened. I need to import this mat progress bar as well, so let me go ahead and do that. So mat progress, is it bar or, yeah, I think it's bar. Mat progress spinner module. Nah, let me go and check out the Angular documentation for that. Angular says components, and I believe progress bar. It's this one. API says mat progress bar module. Oops. Material slash progress bar. And I think that's all good enough to save. So I don't know what the fuck is going on. Retry as administrator. So computer's gonna get overwritten in a second. Just bear with me. Failed to save. Retry. So it's just that loader component. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to duplicate it, new folder, loader, right? And I'm just going to create the new class. You know, at this point, I'm pretty much over it. Loader dot component dot ts, and Control A, Control X, drop it over here, Control V. And then I just gotta update my imports. I could have left it all the same and just went here and just changed this to loader. Right now it doesn't exist. So here I just need to Control Z enough so that way there's no changes to save. So everything else is saved. And now if I go back to my application, Okay, this works. Loader dot load component. Why can't you resolve that? Oh, wrong folder. Loader. Oh, okay. So Matt, I thought I had that in here. Oh, loader component. Loader slash loader component. Map progress bar is defined here, so I don't get the problem there. And this should be green. Oh, the reason being is because there's an issue. So let's do dot dot. Um, so let's go dot dot slash. Oh, too far. Dot slash, and we need to go into another folder. Hopefully I wasn't stupid enough to put it in. Oh, it's under footer. Slash. There we go. And I spelled component wrong. Oh well, who cares? I mean, it'll matter in a second. It'll matter later, but I don't need it to work right now. And somehow I screwed up my login form somehow. I don't even know how that happened. Because right now, it doesn't even work. So somehow, excuse me, somehow my login form got corrupted in the mix of all of this. To my knowledge, I didn't even touch login. So the fact that so I'm gonna have to bomb everything and start from scratch. So my apologies, guys. Things didn't go exactly the way I expected today. So I'll continue with this later on, and I'll update you guys. I gotta shut down and refresh.